Hello and welcome to Nation Watch. It's Sunday, 15 September 2024, and we continue as a country to inch towards general and regional elections in Guyana. There's a level of unpredictability with respect to this. In my view, I've discussed my view before, and I would not repeat it at this time, except to give you some information that you can write down and reflect upon later on. Now, the last census that was reported on in Guyana was in 2012. The last census that was conducted in Guyana was 2 years ago, for which no report has been issued. And there's no national conversation with respect to the last census sponsored or participated in by the government of Guyana. Census 2012 put Guyana's population as 746,955. And it's broken down into 371,805 males, 375,150 females. Now, the official list of electors in Guyana has been released. The official list of electors was released on the 2nd of September 2024. That's a few days ago. And this list has a validity up to the 31st of December 2024. So it means that if the PPP is so minded, they have a window of up to the 31st of December 2024 to name a date for election, if they're so minded. It is interesting, ladies and gentlemen, that the official list of electors carries 718,715 names on it. As far as GCOM is concerned, there are 718,715 eligible electors in Guyana. Juxtapose that against the census report of a population of 746,955. Somebody is misrepresenting something in these numbers. There is a resistance to the release of the last census report, and you may like to know that the information we have suggests, among other things, that the indigenous population in Guyana is the fastest growing, and that the East Indian population of Guyana has dropped to around 30% of the national population or less. I beg your pardon. It means, therefore, that if the People's Progressive Party is to rely on its traditional voter base, it'll have to find ways of attracting at least an additional 21% of the Guyanese voters from among indigenous Guyanese and African Guyanese and mixed races. An interesting set of information for you to digest, and during the course of another program, we'll discuss this some more. But today, I'm honored to have in studio with me a gentleman who has served Guyana with great distinction and who has been treated in a very shabby and disrespectful way by the sitting government of Guyana. He has been hauled to the High Court, to the Magistrates Court, to the full court, to the Court of Appeal, and he continues to defend himself using facts, using truth, and to the PPP's annoyance, they continue to be on the losing side every time they try to humiliate this gentleman. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest is former Minister of Finance, Mr. Winston Jordan, who has kindly consented to be on Nation Watch today. Welcome, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you very much, Marvin. It's good to be here. Last time I recall being here is around, I think it's around somewhere around the middle of 2022. So,
yeah. Well, I know you had a number of issues to deal with. I want to get down to this issue of wages and salaries, the unequal treatment of people. Recently, there was what is believed to have been a grand betrayal of the teachers by their identified representatives, or some of them. And so they lost a glorious opportunity to get substantial increases in their salaries and wages. Alongside that, we had the People's Progressive Party's continuous harping on the Granger administration giving the cabinet a 50% salary increase, an issue that you've debunked over and over again. But the less talked issue is Mr. Jagdeo's 500% increase in his own emoluments in the run-up to elections, which would have, in fact, made him ineligible to run again. Alongside that, he ensured that his pension was tagged not to his own income, his last income, but to the income of the sitting president progressively. And there was this story about they reject the increases that under Mr. Granger's presidency and your tenure as Minister of Finance had been awarded. They will return it, they'll repeal it, they'll turn it upside down, but in fact, they've increased it several fold since then. In the meantime, the teachers specifically have been receiving the short end of the stick, and the public servants in general have been mistreated and given 5% across the board increases for Christmas. Talk to us about the inequality in treatment by this Jagdeo Ali regime of citizens of this country.
Thank you, Maureen. There's a whole mouthful you asked there. You summarize a lot of stuff there. I'm not too sure where I can begin. And in fact, that could be the entire program. But
Yeah.
let me see. Let us start with, say, the teachers quickly, okay? Because I believe the teachers, a grave injustice has been done to the teachers. And this injustice has been contributed to by the negotiating team. In fact, they probably gave the word negotiate a very bad name, and compounded by the decision of the General Council. You know, as an aside, I think 5 people in the General Council abstained from voting on the quote-unquote package. I think those 5 people should resign in disgrace, because there's no way, it's not the UN Security Council or the UN General Assembly where you can abstain. You either have a vote or you don't have a vote. But to abstain, which means to sit on the fence, thinking that you could be absolved for a package that might have gone wrong or good, is no way. And I think to the eternal shame, they should resign from the council. But that is for the teachers themselves. Look, the teachers have been given 10%, 8%, and some 9%. This is in accord with what the government had for the general public sector. So signing something which suggests that should the public servants be given more, then you will get it, is just like, you know, I mean, it's very difficult to stomach. With the exception of the Aubrey Armstrong Award that gave public servants 31% in 1999 and 26.6% in 2000. There has been, I believe, no other time in recent history where public servants would have got more than teachers. No other time. And I'm fairly correct in what I'm saying. So there's nothing that they can hold out hope for, that the public servants will get more than the 10%. That is what essentially the government had in mind to give the entire public sector. So the teachers, unfortunately, wasted 75 days in the streets in a grand struggle that produced not even a mouse. It produced nothing. The teachers got nothing that they had requested in whole or even in part. The teachers kept wavering, the negotiating team kept wavering, removing negotiation points that they had in return for nothing. And so the 10 and the 8 and the 9 that they got is exactly what was going to be given to the public servants. So in many ways, the teachers have done a disservice the teachers' negotiation team has done a disservice to the rest of the public sector, because there's absolutely no way that the government is going to give a salary increase higher than 10% to the rest of the public sector. Not when they're using this fiction of fiscal space, right? In fact, many of them using the word fiscal space don't even understand the concept. But it is thrown out there to dazzle and bamboozle the unions. And that is what happened to the union negotiations. They were bamboozled because none other than the president of the union was heard repeating exactly what the government said. He said, well, we couldn't get any more because they said they don't have fiscal space. I don't think he understands what fiscal space means.
Or maybe he does.
Right? I really honestly would give him the benefit of the doubt in saying that he didn't understand what on earth he was talking about. Because fiscal space has to do with priorities, right? Priorities within the construct of a budget or a plan. So you make your own fiscal space. As I said in the previous program, there are three elements that will make up that fiscal space: the revenues, the expenditure, and the financing of whatever deficit that you may have. On the revenue side, you will never have fiscal space if you continue to give away, tax concessions inordinately, indiscriminately, which is a continuation of a situation that we found in 2015 when we came in power. In fact, I have a little, this morning I was looking back again, because I don't like to make any statements that, they can refute. I like to make, and this is the state of the tax system that we met in 2015 when we came in. I said then that, Mr. Speaker, since taking office, our administration stressed the need for comprehensive tax reform. And you remember, from the time we came in, we put together a tax reform committee that was headed by Dr. Morris Odell and contained Christopher Ram, Godfrey Stacia, and Dr. Thomas Singh from University of Guyana, right? And they were able to put together a report in January of 2016. They presented it to me, right? And the basis of their report, right, the material that they used for background were two reports that were available to the government at the time. One was called the Juke study, that I believe was done since way back on when Jack Bill was president. And one was the IMF study that was done by the CARTAC Center, which is the Caribbean Technical Assistance Center. Okay? And so I said comprehensive tax reform. What we found were high and multiple rates and inequality in the system. We found rampant smuggling, which again, it's gone right back.
Yep.
Rampant smuggling, something that we had tamed, not gotten rid of, but we had tamed, right? There was rampant smuggling. There was rampant incidents of tax avoidance and tax evasion, which is even more today, right? Legitimate businesses were threatened with extinction. And right now you have that going on, because I can tell you, one or two people have called me or messaged me asking whatever happened to the measures we put in place, right? That saw them coming up with their increased profits. It's unfortunate, but I tell them we're not there anymore. You got to talk to the government, Yes, and while labor productivity suffered from a tax system that acted as a disincentive to greater effort. You had an income tax system with a flat tax. You know what's a flat tax?
Across.
A tax that goes across the board regardless whether you're earning $2 or $2 million. Yeah. That is what the system was characterized by in 2015. So that acted as a disincentive to labor, right? And this whole corrupted system led to increasing demands for tax concessions. And tax concessions, as you well know, weaken the tax base. So you can't get fiscal space if you forever weakening the tax base, narrowing the tax base. The more you narrow the tax base, is the greater incidence you're putting on those who get attacked by the tax at source. And who get that?
The wage earner.
The wage earners, all the public servants. They can't do a thing, right? That is why since this government has come in, it has given away to businesses, even when the businesses didn't ask for assistance, like in the health sector and the education sector. We had already removed the VAT that we had put on education. We had already removed that. But when they came in, they removed income tax to the sector. The people in that sector never complained about paying income tax to the sector. They removed all taxes in the health and the education sector. And you know for what reason? It's glaring why they did it, right? But the point I'm making is that if you weaken the tax base, then you will always never have fiscal space. You will never. Then when you come to the expenditure, if you're giving away widespread untargeted subsidies, you find in every reason why you have to pay a subsidy to some constituent of yours. And I think they got vexed because I named the fertilizer, $1 billion in fertilizer subsidy. They said to the agricultural sector, to farmers. We don't see any report by the Auditor General. We don't see any report by the government itself. Who are these farmers that got the money? How much? What they are farming? How long they were farming? What we do know is that virtually no small farmer got access to any fertilizer, any free fertilizer. That's what we know. Okay? Nobody in Buxton, Mocha, Dartmouth, none of these places got any fertilizer. So who are they fooling? And then we're out to holler, but I don't like rural development. I mean, what kind of? So the point is, and then you look now at the capital side, the capital expenditure, 66% or $660 billion in capital expenditure in 1 year.
Yeah.
In a tiny little country that had already been suffering from all kinds of deficits in the education sector. You want to implement a $660 billion program.
What is instructive in this $660 billion program is that we continue to construct buildings. We do not equip them, we do not staff them, we do not train anybody in anticipation of staffing them. And at the end of a project, if it does in fact come to an end, because the Chedi Jagan Airport has not ended yet, the school at Bamia, that contract hasn't ended yet. The Tipuyu or whatever it is, contract has not ended yet. But whenever they end, if they do, we have a difficulty identifying the cost. There's one project that was said to be costed at $45 million, the health center at Swan. The ministry said 45, the minister said 40, and the RHO said 20. The day after the 20 figure was put up there, and we have some images here we'd like to show in that regard. Kilcoy Maikoni got a health center for $39 million, and it's no different in size or design from the one at Swan. So here's where the term wasteful spending steps in. And the administration of which you are a part, and particularly the ministry that you headed, put an attack recently for wasteful spending. And we are seeing a closure of one nursing school in Linden and the construction of a new one to replace it on the Eskimo coast. We are seeing a hospital at West Amrar, the regional hospital, starved of resources, starved of competent doctors and other health officials, being replaced with a new structure, the Kendrin. we can see the Saudi hospital, which is undermanned, under-equipped, being replaced with a new physical structure somewhere else on the Essequibo coast. Is this not wasteful spending?
Any unplanned expenditure of that magnitude that you have just highlighted will clearly result in waste of a significant part of the expenditure. And I have made this point over and over and over, and I've used all kinds of examples, right? The most recent one is to do with these 5 regional hospitals. You can find no health sector, no development, of course there's no development plan, no health sector plan that got these 5 regional hospitals. You can find no health sector plan that got a brand new New Amsterdam hospital, when especially the one that they have there is fairly recent, because remember they broke down the old one that was in, I don't